let's go. Hi, everybody. We're here. We're back. We have the one, the only, the brilliant, the beautiful Kate Farr, Bionic Dance. How are you? And
Oh,
Luciano is here. And the whole St. Gulick thing you were wondering about, Kate. Are you familiar with a parody religion called Discordianism?
I've heard of it.
Gulick is one of the saints of that parody religion. Gulick is a cockroach.
Okay.
Yeah. And the cockroach achieved sainthood when the guys in Whittier, California were on their acid trip in the bowling alley. So just,
That makes me think of a really old, like late 80s, early 90s animation called Grinning Evil Death, where
ooh,
it's a mixture of CGI and traditional animation where this giant mechanical cockroach is destroying a city. And this kid is watching it happen. And he like finds this magic ring in a cereal box that turns him into a superhero. And he goes and fights the giant cockroach, only to discover that it's a little actual cockroach, like laughing his ass off evilly as he works these levers inside the robot. And the kid just like scooshes him with the ring, and that ends the destruction of the city. Looking at it now, I mean, there are video games that are more technologically advanced, but at the time,
okay.
it was one of the coolest things I ever saw.
Oh my, oh my. I'm going to have to look into it. Oh my. Hopefully that does not mean that your health is failing you.
No, no, it's a thing. I guess I can explain it. Um, been using this. It's got weed in it.
Okay.
And I'm not used to it. So it's weird. Okay, I haven't really talked to anybody about this much. I've mentioned it once or twice on Facebook, but I've discovered lately that weed is making me nostalgic. If that makes any sense,
It
like
actually kind of does.
when I take a couple of hits of this, I start remembering a lot about the 80s and my childhood and missing parts of it, but not all of it, obviously, because
Obviously.
wow. Um,
Yeah.
and it's kind of weirdly tied in with some of the seizures I used to have because they would give me memories of places, and I was never sure if
Yeah.
they existed or not. And I found a lot of them on Google Earth VR. And if I ever want to be in the mood to go looking again, I do a couple of hits of this, and it makes me wanna.
Oh my, that was the interesting thing. Not that long ago, somebody out in the yard between the buildings uh, pulled out a pipe and said, I'm gonna smoke a little bit. Would you like some?" And I had to think for a minute, and I had to turn her down, unfortunately, because I wouldn't have minded. But it's almost 13 months ago that I quit smoking.
Mm.
And I was afraid that number one, I might cough my lungs out if I did that, or number two, be so tempted that I would go back to smoking. And I don't want that either. Um,
Well, I mean, I know you don't live in a legal state, or at least I don't think you do. But
Medical is legal here, but not recreational.
there's always edibles.
Yeah, okay. The experience is slightly different with the edibles than it is with the smokables, but
Yeah.
gets
Well,
you
I mean,
more or less the same place.
the edibles would still make me nostalgic, but there'd be a kind of like melancholy to it that the actual like the vape doesn't give.
Okay. And
And
then,
so I've decided not to do edibles anymore. Plus, they're way more expensive. This has lasted me most of a month and cost as much as the edibles would, but the edibles might last a week. So this is much better.
righty. And then there's Luciano over there. Tell us about your smoking and edible experiences.
I've never smoked. I've never had edibles. I want to try weed, and I live in a state where I think it's 100% illegal. I live in North Carolina. I'm pretty sure it's 100% illegal, but I think that some forms of cannabis might not be. North Carolina has really weird laws, so I'm not actually entirely sure off the top of my head. I
Well,
would like to try it though.
It's so strange to me that a plant that has so many uses would be illegal because it also can, be a drug. I
Well,
mean, of course, as I understand, a lot of the laws about weed were very racist.
Yep.
yes, we were talking about that last week.
Oh,
Yeah,
you were? I'll have to go back and check that out.
yeah, they did a lot of it just to arrest black people. But that's
Yeah,
a huge part of why it's illegal.
Yep.
Nixon
But
even admitted, or at least his aides did, the whole DEA thing was all about keeping tabs on the blacks.
Yep.
But I mean, the weird thing is that other, let's say, mind altering substances have been made illegal too in ways that had nothing to do with race. I mean, you look at prohibition when they tried to get rid of alcohol. Clearly, there is something in the psyche of, let's say, the more conservative Americans that says any consciousness altering substance is automatically bad.
Yeah, absolutely. And you want to talk conservative? The Pure Prairie League was definitely on the conservative side. Oh
Yeah.
man. Okay, we have somebody knocking at the door. Hi, Jenny. How you
Hey,
doing?
Jenny, how's it going?
You're muted. You can't tell us. There we go.
There we are. Hi.
Hey.
Mhm.
Yeah, you were talking earlier, Jenny, about getting my ugly mug on this thing. I have to figure out how to do that yet. No, I cannot pin all of the screens. I've tried, and I can only pin
Oh,
one at a time.
okay.
Only one at a time. What I think I'm going to have to do, I may have to end up using two cameras, and have the one that gets me into meat, and then the other one that shows my face up in the corner of the
Oh, so
screen or
you
something.
do you need a camera? You don't need a camera to join the meet though, do you? You just
No.
need a second account to join
you
it.
can come in camera-less. Yeah.
I could
Yeah, so you
totally
just
unplug my camera right now and you'd still hear my dumb butt.
yeah, so you just join with the second account and then you capture the screen from that.
Yeah, the whole sadness thing, which is what's going to take me.
So you're seeing everyone all at once at the moment.
Right.
We're seeing whoever's talking.
Yeah, whoever
Yeah.
talks, you get to see, and over in the upper corner, you've got everybody else. Like
Yep.
right now, well, just a minute ago,
All
there
right,
was
how do you
you on the
change
screen, Jenny. There you are again. And over in the
Yeah.
sidebar is Kate and Luciano. And I'm way up in the very upper right corner, small as a
I see what you mean.
thumbnail
Yeah,
here.
that's really annoying. Yes,
Yeah.
it doesn't let you do it. Zoom does, but this doesn't. That's
Wait a
annoying.
minute.
Yeah.
Are you streaming through something? Like OBS or
OBS.
I'm
something?
streaming through OBS.
Okay, well that's why is it's capturing your screen. And you could probably capture a different screen that shows all of us. You might have to lose that bottom bar with your name on it.
That would be no problem.
But if you stream specifically the web page, I mean, what I'm looking at right now is all of us.
No, but does it
Although,
include you, Kate?
actually, you're right, it doesn't.
Yeah,
I don't know how to.
because Google Meet doesn't do that. Whereas if you were using Zoom or something like that, you can actually set it up to. It's one of the options to show everyone.
Well, the problem
Whereas
I
this
have,
doesn't have it. Where yeah, I'm sorry, I was telling you to do something which you can't actually do.
the problem I have with Zoom is well, twofold. Number one is the money. It's a little expensive for me, and then the other
Yeah, that's
one
why I don't use it.
is it hammers on my system.
I didn't know Zoom costs.
It
Have you-
does.
How much does Meet
Unfortunately.
cost though?
I am paying $6 a month.
Well, that's not too bad. Did you try using God, now I can't remember what it's
What,
called. because
StreamYard?
I've been using Zoom. No. It's free. Gordon Bennett. Okay.
I know the one you're talking about. It starts with a J, and I
Yeah,
cannot I cannot think of what the hell the name is. I was looking at it a little bit. I already had Google Meet at that point. I may
Yeah.
still try it out and ditch Google Meet if that actually works better.
Because you can actually do what you want to do with that. You can actually show everyone on the screen at once with that from the one that you capture. So that does work. But your video camera quality isn't quite as good as Meet or Zoom. That's the only problem.
Okay, that would be a little bit of a problem.
Yeah,
but,
so But
I'm
you
not
may
se-
find that. Have you got two Google accounts?
As a matter of fact, I have 3.
Well, can you open up another browser? So, what browser are you using at the moment?
Okay, right now, browser-wise, I'm using Chrome, of course, because Google doesn't
You're in
let
Linux
you.
still, aren't you?
I'm still in Linux. That
Yeah.
is going, as far as the show goes, that
But
is going to
have you got
change.
Firefox on Linux as well?
Yeah, I do.
So if you open Firefox and logged in with one of your other accounts, can you log into this chat with the other account and then stream that one
I'm
to
not
your
sure. I
OBS?
haven't tried. That would be one thing I would like to do. Would be to start up a stream, just rogue, as Jones used to call it when I was working with him, and just play. Where you're not worried about video quality, you're not worried about anything, content or anything like that. You're just fucking around on
Yeah.
screen, and play with some of that stuff. But what I've done here, as I was saying earlier, I cried all the way to Newegg, but I bought Windows 10, and in the coming week I will.
Yeah,
be.
Jitsi Meet Doc, that's what it's called, Jitsi.
There it
So
is.
I don't know how long I'm going to be able to keep using Windows 8.1, but the problem is that Windows 10, even with like all sorts of compatibility modes, it will not let me use some of the programs that are completely critical to making YouTube videos, to animating, all of that stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
What can't you run, Kate? Because I haven't had
3ds
problems.
Max was the big one.
Really? Because I've been running 3ds Max on my other machine, not on this one.
Yes,
Well,
but
you've
what
got the slightly
version?
different problem,
What
right, Kate?
version of 3ds Max? Because I can't
Oh, God,
afford
I can't remember. No, it's an old one because it's the only one I had.
Okay, well, if it came after,
But I can't remember which version.
Well, if it came after 2013, then okay, but mine is 2013, so.
Yeah, I don't. I think mine's. Yeah, it might. Yeah. I don't know, Kate. I honestly can't remember.
Okay,
Yeah,
well, I just know that I tried to run it under Windows 10 and it wouldn't work, and so I rolled back to 8.1.
Yeah, and then
Oh.
you're, from what I remember with what you're going through, Kate, to get the version 3DS Max that would run under 10, you wouldn't be able to own it. You could only rent it, right?
Right, yes, they've gone to
Yeah,
that subscription format, which is such utter bullshit.
Yes, it is.
And I'd have to look. I forget if it was like $300 a month or $300 a year,
Holy
but it was
shit.
something crazy.
I think it's about $600 a year, actually, Kate.
Okay. Well,
But, yeah.
regardless, it's a lot of.
That'd be Australian. Yes, so it's about $300.
And
Sorry.
I don't want to spend that kind of money.
No, I don't blame you either.
I mean, piracy is an option that I'd rather avoid. You know what I mean?
I can understand.
Have you tried running Blender?
I have not, simply because everything I've got right now is 3ds Max. I'm working on a huge project, and trying to change horses midstream is such a bad idea. So
Yeah, I
maybe
agree.
when this project is done, then I will.
I've tried Blender. I was trying to learn on Blender, and I just couldn't get the hang of it. Went to 3D Studio Max, and it's so much easier.
Yeah, I actually tried
The
learning.
on Blender is enormous.
I tried learning Blender a number of years ago, and the learning curve is almost 90 degrees to the horizontal.
Yeah, it is nuts.
There are some things I've seen people doing in Blender that I wish I could do in 3ds Max,
Yeah,
or at least without super
cool
expensive
feature.
plugins, and in a way that is completely counterintuitive. I mean, because 3ds, and there are certain things that you can't do in Max that, honestly, how did they not figure that people would want to do these things? That was like one of the most idiotic decisions ever. There's like so many things in Max where it's like, for the finished video, you have to do it in post. Have to, because Max just plain doesn't have the functionality.
Oh, that's just annoying.
Torah 24/7. We are usually pretty easygoing around here, but when it comes to proselytizing, we kind of draw the line. So I mean, we'd love to have you here, but let's keep the word of God to a minimum. How's that sound? Okay.
Besides, I can't hear the word Torah without thinking Torah, Torah, Torah. You know, it's just not possible. You say that, and that goes through my brain.
I have to pull that
Yeah,
out
I'm
and
not
watch
sure which
that
version
again.
of 3D Studio Max I've got. Okay, I'll have to look up and let you know
Okay.
what I did. But I think when I ran it, I had issues running it initially. Because, yeah, mine's not exactly legit. It got lent to me by somebody else, but it is a really old version. And I think I had issues getting it running, and there was something I had to do to make it work under Windows 10. So if it's similar, if it's your version or earlier, which is a possibility because it's the person I got it from had it for years. So if it's your version or earlier, I'll figure out what it was I had to do to make it work, and I'll let you know.
Okay.
Because if you can make it work, that's even better.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I just know that what I have right now is working, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, that was my
absolutely.
attitude with everything for years.
You run yourself into more problems than you want if you try to fix something that isn't broken.
And with the project I'm working on right now, I mean, I said before it's not a good idea to change horses midstream, and I kind of already did that because I started out doing it in a more style. Like if you've seen my videos, you've probably seen Rational
Yeah,
State,
I've seen your videos.
Sandra. And I was doing what I was doing in that style, but then I switched to something a little closer to anime with my own spin on it, but still very anime inspired look. And that changed a lot of things. But I'm working on something right now that's sort of a proof of concept sort of thing where it's actually a background for my videos.
I love your animations. You're very talented. I wish I was a third as good as you are because I suck. But that's all right. I've got other skills. So
it's taken me a long time to get where I am. So I mean, don't despair.
I'm not too worried. My artistic.
Nice.
But that's awesome.
Kind of thing I'm working on right now. Like you've seen this from one of my intros, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And there's like a space station and a spaceship.
Oh my! Shades of 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Well, I mean, the wheel and spoke design of a space station predates 2001, like you wouldn't believe.
Absolutely. I'm trying to remember if it was Werner von Braun that had that idea back in the 50s, or it was someone before him.
So this is the kind of thing I'm working on right now. I'm going for sort of a retro style.
Oh, I love the bridge. That's awesome.
Actually, it's a coffee shop.
It's a coffee shop. Oh, it is too.
Okay, so is Whoopi Goldberg going to show up in there?
Not even a tiny, tiny bit.
Okay.
Like, this is the most retro it really gets. I mean, that is very retro style right there.
Oh, that's awesome.
I mean, I love the whole, like, I'm putting rings around everything and all of that sort of thing. So that's the main character.
It's amazing.
So, like I said, I sort of changed horses midstream with the style I'm doing because originally these characters look pretty different. But I have no intention of switching animation software while I've got this much already done.
Yeah.
No, that would be crazy. And I mean, it's like with anything, even if you import it into the new package, generally it screws something up and you have to go back and rework everything.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that's eventually I'm about halfway done with the script, right? I took a long time actually just sitting down to write the damn thing, but when it's done, I'm gonna need voice actors, and I'm deciding because one thing is I know that people want to be in my animations. They've made it very clear they want to, but if you can't actually act, I'm gonna have to say no. Because I mean, I've worked on animations before where the people doing the voice acting could not emote in the right ways, and it just sounded like someone reading the lines
Reading the script,
instead of feeling the lines. And
you would be having auditions for that, right? I
Oh,
mean,
of
you're
course,
certainly
of
not
course.
going to say you over on the street. Come on in here.
Although there's one character where if I can get him to do it, I really want Aaron Ra to voice him.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be awesome.
So, and I suspect he'll agree. I suspect, because I know he's done some acting. He's in a movie that is coming up.
Yes.
Right. And and we are friends, and I don't want to impose on that friendship, but at the same time, I suspect that'll be a reason for him to say yes.
I don't think you're going to struggle to find voices, okay?
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
I don't think you're going to struggle to find voices. There's so many people within the community who will volunteer, who can actually act.
But at the moment, I only have like 6 or 7 actual speaking parts. So, and I'm doing one of them myself for sure.
Oh yeah,
of course you are.
Put yourself in your own thing, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not going to
considering your avatar's virtually in it.
Well, not really, actually, though. I mean, Sandra does not actually appear anywhere in this animation at all.
Really? Oh,
really.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't know if you saw the slightly darker haired chick or darker skin, the purple thing. That's the character I'm going to be doing.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah. But anyway, that's. I mean, I could go into a lot of detail about the world building I've put into this, but I don't know. I mean, this isn't my show, so I don't know if you guys want me to.
Well, what do you say, guys? Hey, quiet boy, come on, chime in here. What do you have to say?
I'm super excited to see what it's going to look like. If you do open auditions, I've done voice. I actually have done voice acting. I don't often talk about it because I'm just like, whatever. But I have done voice acting for videos for people in the past. I might send in something just jokingly, just to be like, hey, shoot your shot, I guess.
I mean, I haven't done voice acting per se. I have been on a legitimate stage.
Yes, same, Diana.
I've done TV stuff, which always surprises people. But like, I've also done radio stuff. So I actually do have like a weird little resume for this sort of thing. But it's just like, I've always done it as like an atheist. And I'm just like, hey, people are like, do you need an atheist for your TV show, or do you need an atheist for your radio show? And people have always just been like, hey, maybe Luciano should go. And I'm like, I don't know why people want me to go, but sure.
Okay. And
are you sure they're not saying they want you to go?
I mean, well, when I sat down, they didn't kick me out. So, I mean...
Yeah, the one I keep forgetting because it was kind of a throwaway at the time when I was back in high school. I was on a local television production, WVIZ, the local PBS station. That was 73, 74 or something like that. So it's been a while.
If it was 73, I was still in nappies.
Okay. Yeah, I was either a junior or senior in high school at the time.
73,
yeah, I
mean, get a glint in the milkman's eye.
In 73, my parents were toddlers, so...
Yikes. Wait a minute.
Wow. You're
I'm
really
24.
Yeah, you.
Most of the people that I do YouTube stuff with are like generally the same age as me. There are a couple of exceptions. I've done podcasts with people who are not the same age as me, but for the most part, most of like the people who watch my stuff and the people who chill in my section are like people who are my age. So whenever I'm on other people's shows and they're talking about their age, I'm just like, I don't know if I should chime in.
Well, you haven't broken the 30 barrier yet, or have you?
I haven't even broken the 25 barrier yet.
Holy shit, you're younger than I thought you were. Okay, because I thought you were.
I'm younger than Bemeazelbub.
Oh my!
Yeah.
Oh no! Oh,
I'm older than Inordinate Refraction, and I'm older than the Bible Belt Atheist. But those are some of the only people in our like little circle that I'm older than.
Yeah, because an ordinary
Oh, wow.
refraction's what, 20, I think, and BBA is what, maybe 18.
Generally they're around those ages. I know that BBA is 18, or
Yeah,
actually he might be 19, but I know he's 18 or 19.
I think you and I should stop mentioning our ages, Dan.
I'm
We
sorry,
gotta let these
guys.
whippersnappers catch up.
Well, I mean, I've mentioned it before. People are usually pretty surprised to discover my age. So, yeah.
you're
Well,
older
you
than
said
you
you were a
look.
kid in the 80s, so you can't be that much younger than me.
I'm 43. I will be 44 in December.
Nice.
Yeah.
But,
I'll be 47 in January, so
when I ask people to
Not much.
guess my age, they often go several decades too young. So
I
I'm
thought
like,
that you would have been in your 30s, not in your 40s. So
it's
Yeah.
flattering, I have to say.
yeah, I would have said you're in your mid-30s.
I've had people this year guess as low as 23.
nice.
Wow.
So, I'll take it.
Yeah,
I'll take
hell
Yeah, I'd take it too. That's awesome.
Well, the greatest thing, and here I go name dropping all that shit. When I was in Kentucky, we were at Hilton's house sitting around the table on the back porch. Aaron is there. And whatever it was we were talking about, I just offhand said, I was born in 57. He wheeled around, "You're older than I am?" I said, yeah.
Well, it's hard to tell Oren Ra's age, actually.
I think it's your favorite story, that, Diana.
Yeah, it is, actually. For whatever reason, almost everybody takes me to be 10 years younger than I am. Some as much as 15 years younger. Aaron thought I was 52. And there are some people who actually think I'm in my late 40s.
Yeah, I
Still
thought you were
doesn't
in
get
your
me a
early
date,
50s,
but you know.
Diana.
See what?
I thought you were in your early 50s. You knew that.
Yeah, I think you had mentioned that at one point. I'll take it. Thank you guys.
Me, on the other hand, I think I look my age, so.
I don't know how I do it. I really don't. Because, well, was it you or was it somebody else that suggested maybe it's the estrogen?
Yeah, that doesn't work for me, though.
Okay.
Well, I only think I look my age because I'm prematurely grey, so. Not that I look grey at the moment because I've dyed it. So.
Well, I started going gray in my late 40s.
I was grey by the time I was 30.
Okay. Now, as far as the facial hair, which I hate, I had the white beard by the time I was, 35. I had, 5 separate colors of facial hair. I think you've all seen the picture with the biker jacket and that sort of thing.
No. No,
See,
you
I
don't
always
want to.
wonder, how Steve Martin ended up gray so early in his life.
Well, there are a few who, Steve Martin is one. Jay Leno, grayed early. So did Peter Graves.
It's normally genetic, so it normally runs in the family. See, my grandmother was well, I wasn't completely grey by 30, but I had lots and lots of grey. But she was actually white grey, and she was doing blue rinses by the time she was 30.
Yeah,
So it ran in the family. Yeah.
You always hear about like blue-haired old ladies. I've never seen it.
Well, they don't do it anymore. People dye their hair normal colors when they get older because you don't want to look old.
I don't know. I figure I don't know. Sometimes I think I might be a Highlander, but if I ever go gray, I'm dyeing myself something you can see from orbit. Damn it.
Okay.
My hair will be magenta again
Yeah,
because
now
I
you-
have done the magenta hair before.
One of my aunts.
Now, funny you. I'll shut
Oops.
up for a sec.
Okay. One of my aunts went white gray at the age of 18, which was really interesting.
Wow, that's really early.
The genetics did not show up in the rest of the family, but Marie went absolutely white. She was either still in or just out of high school. And then her sister, the female slimy bastard, held on with the jet black hair well into her 70s. Oh, man.
I remember you having your hair like that, Kate.
Yeah.
I actually do too.
Of course, one of my favorite Photoshop jobs I've done has to be that.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
then
was having fun.
that facial
Yeah, the
expression, that is
Terminator.
amazing.
You know, although I have to say, I really, really miss the blue. I have never been able to get my hair that color again. I've tried, and it always comes out wrong.
Huh.
Like,
Any
I don't
ideas?
know what product I used exactly to get it that color, but oh my gosh, I loved it.
Yeah, it's striking. Definitely. Now,
You wouldn't see that from all. People just think you are Ocean.
Okay.
Okay.
Water.
Oh. I thought you meant ocean.
Yeah, I realized
boy.
what you thought.
Yeah.
That went whoosh because I picked the wrong term.
I
They think
was-
you were a puddle. How's that?
Okay. No, seriously, that caught me off guard. I had no idea what you meant. Because, I mean, I at Faithless Forum, I met Ocean.
Mm.
And so that was like on my brain. Funny thing is, he and I didn't like each other at first. And then we actually were in a stream together and we were chatting in person. And he was like, my first impression of you was completely wrong. So.
I
Yeah.
That
actually
often
met
happens to
Ocean.
people, though.
When I met Ocean, he and I were on very opposite sides of a discussion that got pretty heated. Back in the day, there was back when the great debate community was still like super active. There was some people who were theists, including Ocean, who decided to respond to a video that Godless Cranium made, and we decided to do it sort of together. We hopped on one big live stream, and Ocean was with the other theists. But then, like, he wasn't really feeling it, and they weren't really feeling it, and he stayed with them. But he and I started chatting because my significant other is pagan, and like I was curious as to his insights. So he and I became friends, and I'm gonna be on a live stream with him. I think like 2 weeks. Yeah, I'm gonna be on the Hammer, the Hammer show that him
Oh,
and
so you'll
Sarah
be on
do.
with Sarah.
Yeah, Hammered Out. That's what it's called. I
Hammered
had to
Out,
remember
yeah.
the name.
Yeah,
I've actually been on there before, but that was like a year ago. So.
I met Ocean back when I was working with Dr. Jones. He came onto one of the episodes of The Place, and he struck me as a rather interesting character, somebody I might like to talk to. And unfortunately, with Ocean and Dr. Jones, things didn't work out all that well. Jones was going to have him on a show and never got around to it, and Ocean kind of got a little pissed off about it, and I don't blame him. So that kind of fell through, and I haven't had a chance to talk to Ocean in a while. I'll have to hit him up or something, and maybe have him on my show. I invited him on sometime back, and he was a little busy, so maybe I can try again.
He and I are going to talk about the voting age because I made an article.
Oh,
I
yeah.
I didn't think that anything would come of it. I just felt like writing it, and then people started reading it, and we had like a really big conversation about lowering the voting age, which is something that I support. And it was a very interesting. Ocean and I generally agree, and I don't know how Cirrus feels, but we're going to talk about it in a couple of weeks, so that's exciting.
About the voting age?
Yeah, about the voting age for federal elections. So,
Yeah, because there's talk about lowering it to what, 16?
Yeah, generally people want to lower it to 16. Some places have lowered it to 17, which is still an improvement if you ask me. And I know that that's like somewhat of an edgy opinion. I know that not everyone is like, hey, we should lower it. That's fine. I just wrote an article talking about it, and then people started talking about it. I'm like, did not expect this to go anywhere.
I forget who it was, but there was a politician, for some reason I want to say Andrew Yang, who was saying 14.
I don't know about 14, but I know Andrew supports lowering it to 16. He is he's one of the people who has written and like spoken out about lowering it to 16. It's possible that he might support lowering it to 14, but I don't know any major politician who, as far as I know, supports lowering it that low.
Surely that would only
why
help
I
conservatives,
think
wouldn't
it
it?
might be him, but I swear there was a politician somewhere who was saying, yes, let's lower the voting age to 14. I'm going to look it up.
I would be curious as to the arguments, because I know like the reason I support lowering it to 16 is because like there's two big reasons. I don't like the fact that 16-year-olds are deeply affected and are capable of working full-time hours, but they can't vote. Because when you're 16 in most states, the cap on your working hours is lifted. You can work 40-hour weeks at 16. And also at 16, teenagers already have cold cognition, which is the psychological function that most people agree is the most important for voting. So because of those two reasons, I'm like, we should probably lower it to 16, but even lowering it to 17 is an improvement. So
yeah, now when they start talking about 14, I'm a little hesitant.
I am too. I would need to know why they want to lower it to 14.
I mean, I remember the 14-year-olds when I was 14, and I wouldn't give them the vote. But then again, that was a while ago. Maybe times and people have changed. Who can tell?
But as I said, I can see it only helping conservatives lowering the age because, I mean, it's mostly going to be conservative kids who are going to get driven to polling booths to make the vote.
I don't actually know about that because one, at 16, a lot of people are already starting to get their permits, and some people are starting to get their licenses at 16. And also, if you're voting at 16, that doesn't actually mean that you're going to be voting at 16. If you're voting at 16, you're probably going to be voting at 17 or at 18. But with voting, the way that it generally goes is that the people who start voting earlier become lifetime voters. And generally, the longer it takes you to vote for the first time, so regardless of whether you're 18 or you're 20 or you're 22, generally those people vote less often. But
I think I found it. Like I was going through a lot of pages, and they all said 16, and then I saw like 14 reasons to lower it to 16. But it looks like some dude called Spire, Representative Spire, wants to lower it to 14.
Can you put that in the...
A woman, it says here, said that if her measure is approved, Jackie Spire, you can forgive me for thinking Jackie could be either one.
Yeah.
Yeah, but apparently just in California.
Yeah, honestly, that checks out. If it's just in California, yeah.
And I also see a petition on change.org. And I see something here. Should we lower the voting age to 14 on changeofview.com? Oh, but it says now the URL is broken. So I don't know. But I swear I heard someone want and maybe it was just California, but I thought it was the federal voting age.
So there was a measure to lower the federal voting age that was part of Ariana Presley's, one of the members of the squad. When she was trying to get her super voting rights plan passed, she proposed an amendment to it that got voted down that would have added a stipulation that the federal voting age is lowered to 16. And that was earlier this year. So
it is strange to me that the word for this is suffrage.
But of course, your voting is different to ours because ours is compulsory, so everyone has to vote.
Oh, that's true.
Really? What's the penalty for not doing it?
If you've got a decent reason, it's fine. If you deliberately don't show up without a reason, you'll get fined.
Oh, how much?
And is that Australia?
I don't know. I've never not shown up. Yeah, that's in Australia.
Well,
yeah.
I'm real curious now.
But you can show up, and then as long as you get your name crossed off the register, people just walk out and don't vote.
Yeah.
That was the other thing. I didn't know how much went on with somebody who really didn't want to do the voting thing. But they had to, so they went into the booth and just started hitting random names. Don't know how much.
We don't have electronic voting here anyway. We have
paper ballots.
Paper ballots.
God, you're definitely civilized.
One thing we have here in California, and we also had it in Seattle, is mail-in voting.
Yep.
but I'm always a little leery of that, because
Yeah,
like
we
if you
have that
go
too.
into a polling place, you at least know that you're like handing it to somebody,
Yeah.
and it's probably not going to get ignored what you just did. But at the same time, there's all those folks who are like, I don't have time. It's a Thursday. I have to work, and all of that stuff.
Really? You do midweek voting? See, our voting is always
Yep.
on a Saturday.
Oh
Yeah,
man, that's
it
so
used
much
to be.
So
better.
our voting's on Saturday. There's hundreds and hundreds of polling places because most school halls get turned into polling places. It's we can walk to our local polling place from here.
Yeah.
For a good period of time, it was always Tuesday. I don't know why they decided on Tuesday, but that's the way it was. Say again.
Maybe it's Tuesday. I for some reason thought Thursday, but you're probably right. I don't know.
It's
Why
Tuesday
not
in
the
some of those
weekend
are
though?
changing
The
now.
weekend makes more sense.
It's because historically there's actually a couple of different reasons for it. I know that like Super Tuesday, which is only for presidential races, it's not for everywhere else. There is like a tradition of it being on a Tuesday. It's such an annoying tradition that there's a thing
It's
called
great
Super
tradition.
Tuesday. I agree. It's a dumb tradition that should be changed. There are politicians who want to make it so that voting occurs on a federal holiday, so that way people can go out to vote. And then there's politicians. You guys can probably guess who don't support this,
Of
but there's
course.
politicians who don't support it.
I would like to see voting day made a federal holiday. No, let's not put the voting on some other federal holiday. Let's just make election day. That's federal holiday. Everybody has a day off. Now you have virtually no excuse to not go and vote.
And I mean, didn't some of the people who, I guess it's conservatives because they always benefit if people aren't voting. But wasn't there a thing where they were very deliberately limiting polling places?
Oh, yes.
And how many actual kiosks were there to vote? So it was like being in line for the DMV.
Yes, absolutely.
I live in North Carolina, and where I live, the specific community where I live, most of our polling places are either elementary schools or churches. So
yeah, it's an elementary.
You don't get polling
I
places in
did.
churches.
My first time I voted in California, I did go to a polling place instead of mailing in a ballot, and it was at an elementary school.
Yep.
Like in their gym.
Yeah, here, the polling place that I go to is, of all damn things, the local senior center. It's right down the block, right next to the police station.
So a local senior center, so a high school instead.
There you go.
Street polling places as well.
Say again.
Do you guys have pre-polling places?
Yes.
So you can go and vote up to a couple of weeks before the election.
Yeah, they're generally the same. In some cases, in some states, there are places that have pre-polling places that are only pre-polling places, but generally those are the same locations as like on election day.
Okay, so you can go and vote you could go vote the weekend before then, so you don't have to vote.
This is something that just came back to my mind. Luciano, have you seen this, or have Kate, or not necessarily Jenny? I saw a video a few days ago, maybe a week or so ago, that was allegedly taken at a voting machine. I think it was supposed to have been in Georgia. A person was pressing one name, and as that person pressed the name, the other name got ticked off.
Yep.
That actually happened. Do you know if that's real?
Yes, it is. That's a thing that happens. So voting machines can be hacked. It's difficult, and there are measures in place against it. But voting machines can be hacked, and in where I live, that's a serious problem that happens every single time we have an election. There are always reports of at least a few different machines in different polling places either being hacked or like glitching out and making it so that you can't select a candidate. It's annoying, and I hate it.
Are all your polling places electronic now?
I've always had like where you fill in the circle.
Yeah.
You feed it into a machine that like reads what you blacked out. But I've never actually had like a touch screen or anything.
I've only ever had touch screens. And Jenny, I heard what you were asking earlier. There are places that have both, and there are places where it's like a security measure where there is a touch machine and a paper ballot, but most places have one or the other, at least as far as I
Okay,
know.
so for all our balloting, it is bits of paper and you fill them out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd really
I
like to
do-
go back. I'd love
I
to
do
And
go
we have
back.
remember-
preferential voting, so you don't just tick one thing, you have to fill in all the boxes in order.
Ranked choice voting, yeah.
Oh wow, I didn't know
I-
Australia
Yeah.
had
I
ranked choice.
remember a comedy sketch. I want to say it was on The Simpsons, where someone's at a voting machine and they do press the candidate they want, and it's not just a box ticks off in the wrong place, but literally the box zooms up under their finger, for the candidate they didn't want.
Yeah, I've actually been a scrutineer at ballot counting before, so actually making sure that they're counted properly. And it's amazing, given our rules for voting, where you actually have to fill in. You're supposed to fill in all the candidates from 1 to whatever, however many there are, in the order that you want them and everything. When they actually count them, as long as they are clear on the ballot paper that they've marked somebody as their primary vote, it will still get counted.
Okay,
Yeah,
Because it'll get argued for. Because whoever's it is that it obviously it's meant to, they obviously meant us. They don't get their other preferences, but they obviously meant us. And you'll have big arguments there about whether on every ballot, even ones where people have put great big crosses in it through the whole ballot and go, I'm not voting for everyone. The cross meets in over this name, so that's who they meant.
So in Honduras, the way they do, in Honduras, they have paper ballots, but the way they do the counting is really weird because Honduras is a multi-party democracy. And they have tables at every single polling station throughout the country that have one member from each of the major parties, and they will like fight with each other. And they'll like, in some cases, they'll almost literally bribe people for their seats because they want to have more representatives. And there's 7 active parties in Honduras right now that have seats. And the smallest parties have only 1 or 2 people. In Honduras, this is National Congress. So they'll be like, hey, one of the bigger parties will come in and be like, hey, we'll pay you for your seats at the table. So that way we have 2 votes in our favor instead of just 1. It's ridiculous.
Okay,
That is
then.
not, that's not democracy.
Honduras isn't a functioning democracy. And in fairness, some parts of the United States aren't really functioning democracies either. So this isn't me.
well,
I mean,
like-
look at our country. We've had more prime ministers in the last 10 years than we've had in the last 15 years than we've had elections. That's just ridiculous.
That's the interesting thing, that number actually works out that way. Yeah, more prime ministers than elections.
Than
God.
elections.
When I was little, I actually was so mystified by the idea of a prime minister because in the U.S., the only time I ever heard of a minister was in the church.
Yep.
And so I'm like, how are they electing a priest as their leader? It was so weird to me. I mean, that's one thing is like the number of words that can mean something else. But I learned one version of it when I was little and didn't hear the other one until I was much older. Like engineer. The first time I heard an engineer who didn't drive a train, I was so boggled by it. Or the fact that there are doctors that aren't medical doctors. That broke my brain the first time I understood that one too.
Hey, if it makes you feel any better, Spanish is my first language. And in Latin America, the word secretary doesn't have quite the same meaning as it does here. So a secretary in American English can mean 2 things.
Yeah.
And in Latin American Spanish, there's 2 different words for the 2 different kinds of secretaries. If someone's like a government secretary, so if someone's like Secretary of the Interior, and then if someone's a secretary for like a lawyer. But in Spanish, there's 2 separate words for those 2 things. So very confusing for me when I first heard that.
Yeah. I know English is such a strange language. I can think of stranger ones, but English is weird.
It really is.
Oh, definitely. It borrows from so many languages that it's very confusing. I've heard, I think it basically that English is considered the most difficult language to learn as a foreign language.
Oh,
It's
I mean, I
one of
imagine
them.
Chinese has to be pretty difficult.
Well, Chinese is a tonal language.
Oh, especially if
so,
it's
yeah.
Mandarin,
Mm.
Yeah, you
where you've got to
have
learn all those cadences and everything.
Yeah, the whole tonal thing. Enunciation is everything in Chinese.
Mhm.
Yeah, especially Mandarin. I mean, if you're talking, what's the main dialect? Because Mandarin's the secondary. What's the?
Oh, I thought that Mandarin was the main one. Then there's
No,
also
Mandarin is your secondary.
is the other one
the-
Cantonese?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well,
So if you
You know what? I have to say, one of the more difficult languages I've tried to learn has to be Klingon. Because I am dead serious. I tried to learn to speak it. And there is this whole thing of like prefixes to indicate who is speaking and what they're speaking about. And it is completely random, no rhyme or reason to any of it. Where it's like if I'm talking about him or her, there's a prefix for that. If I'm talking about an object, there's a prefix for that. If I'm talking about I don't know, like a concept or something, there's a prefix for that. And none of them have like, it's always the same vowel, but a different consonant, or always the same consonant, but a different vowel. There's none of that. And that's just if I'm talking. If someone else is talking about like a thing where I want to refer to this person is doing this with that or this with that person, all of a sudden it's a completely different set of prefixes. Again, no rhyme or reason to any of it. And it's just this whole big like if this then that table of graphs thing that you have to memorize to be able to just like say this is referencing that. It's such a pain in the ass. Not to mention that a lot of the pronunciation has that sort of thing going on, the sort of like glottal thing that you see in Hebrew all over the place. And it's just
how do you
like,
spell it with phlegm?
That brings to my mind. That brings to my mind Marty.
Language.
Yeah, Marty 81. That brought that to my mind in the one video we did. He said, I always thought that Hebrew sounded like Klingon. Oh, it was the response he did to Jordan Pierce on the Space Jews. That's it.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it, you've got to see this damn thing.
No, not Jordan Peterson. You're thinking of the other Jordan from Spirit Science.
Spirit Science. Jordan Pierce, Jordan Dubnitz, whatever the fuck his name is this week.
Jordan something.
Yeah, he's gone.
Yeah, Jordan Peterson is an entirely different asshole.
Oh, right.
Well, I mean, one thing that I was doing for a little while in my videos that some people thought was like wildly racist, but I didn't care, was, you know how when a Muslim will quote from the Quran, they inevitably do it in Arabic first and then in English? You know, and I always thought that was a weird little affectation. Or every time they mention like Muhammad, they have to say like peace be unto him or something after it. In Arabic, whenever they would do that, I would reply in Klingon. You know, like I'd throw some Klingon phrase at them, and people were like, "That's just so like racist. That's prejudice against Muslims." I'm like, dude. He's speaking in a foreign language none of us understand except like him and his friends. And I figure why not throw that back at him and speak a language he doesn't understand?
Hello.
To show him what it's like. And I'm sorry, but that's not racist. That's just showing him how obnoxious he's being.
I fail to see how anything said against Muslims can be racist because Muslim isn't a race.
Well, that's something I pointed out too, but apparently people were like, yeah, but Muslims are always like from Arabia or some shit.
No,
I'm like,
they're
no, they're
not.
not.
No, they're not.
I think
there are more Muslims. There's more Muslims in Indonesia than anywhere else.
I was just
Indonesia is the majority. There's also like 500,000 Muslims in Argentina. Which is something that surprises a lot of people.
And that's another thing is Argentina seems to have a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yep, it does. So the thing about like a criticism against Islam being racist is that's an iffy thing at best. But if someone is being a fucking asshole and they're saying just all sorts of bigoted nonsense, that can be racist, but usually it's not. Like, people have to be really specific. I've heard criticisms against Islam that are undoubtedly based off of race, but those are bad criticisms, and most people don't say those criticisms.
Yeah, no, attacking Islam itself is not racist. It cannot be racist.
Right.
Yeah, attacking people for where they come from is definitely racist. But attacking people for their religion or lack of religion is certainly not racist.
You know what we don't have, and I think it's a term we should have, is like ethnicist or something. Because, I mean, ethnicity often seems to have more to do with culture than it does with race, where race seems to be more about like genetics.
Yeah, I get you.
I mean, like Jewish is not a race,
Right.
but it is kind of an ethnicity, or at least that we have like people who are ethnically Jewish or culturally Jewish here in the United States, like my mom's side of the family. But, you know, if you want to say something about Judaism, like the religion itself, people will often call you racist because they think Jew is a race, and it's not.
Yeah,
you know, like you look at, say, Jews from Israel and Jews from New York, they're not the same. I mean,
what is it that here in the U.S. people know Brooklyn Jews more than anything else, or at least Ashkenazi Jews rather than, say, Sephardic or Ethiopian or whatever else you have. There are many brands of Judaism.
I have to admit, there are like I was raised with like basically half Jewish culture and half Italian culture, all of it from New York, like New York State and all that. And I have to admit, there are aspects of both that when I encounter them, feel kind of like a breath of home, if that makes sense. You know, like if I eat challah bread, that makes me think, oh yeah, I remember this from my mom's side of the family. If I ever use Jewish slang, like Yiddish slang, that's just because I was raised with a lot of it. But on the other hand, you get the Italian side, and I love the food. I love that sort of New York Italian accent over here. I love that, you know. It's just sort of a cultural thing. But like my dad's side of the family is very Catholic. My mom's side of the family, not quite as Jewish in terms of religion as you might think. But I don't know. I mean,
so which were you brought up with, Kate?
What do you mean?
Religious wise,
I wasn't. That's the thing. See, okay, let's see if I can explain this. My mom, again, culturally Jewish, but not religiously Jewish, really. You know, and yeah, we like light a menorah and give out candle or give out presents, but it was basically the same as like Christmas without the religion attached to it. My dad, on the other hand, again, raised Sicilian Catholic, and before I was adopted, said, screw this crap. And then he tried so many religions when I was little. But it was his spiritual journey. So I saw it, but he didn't force it on me or my mom, right? So, I mean, I think in many ways that's what cemented my atheism was the fact that I saw a lot of religions and how like contradictory they were. And how
I hate to go early, but I do have to leave. I'll talk to you guys later.
Well, you take
have
care,
fun,
sweetness.
everyone.
It was great having you here, even though you didn't say much.
I'm sorry.
but
that's because we talk too much.
But
Is that the way it works? Okay.
Like,
there we went.
A lot of religion. And I think seeing how silly they were, how contradictory they were between each other and all that stuff, it really just showed me how ridiculous the entire concept was at an early age. And that sort of like between that and reading Stranger in a Strange Land, that's what kept me an atheist, right? And so, I mean, the closest I ever really came to being religious was trying as hard as I could to use the Force. And it only works on supermarket doors. So that, like, I mean, in a weird way, I'm unique in the YouTube atheist scene, is that I am not recovering from something, or I didn't escape a religion. I never had that experience. And in many ways, I feel a little left out by it, simply because I don't have those war stories that everyone seems to have of like fighting with their parents about being religious or not. They didn't have that indoctrination that people talk about.
I didn't have any of that either. So I feel a
And-
kindred spirit with you there, Kate.
Yeah, well, that's rare, though.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah,
was brought
it
up in
actually
religion.
I mean, usually
I was.
you
yeah.
have people who, again, like I say, have those stories of what they went through, and I didn't.
Yeah, I don't.
It's kind of
either.
like I was never raised in a place that was very anti-LGBT in any way, so I don't have those war stories either. You know, it's just
my, you
like
are
I
so
had it,
lucky.
in many ways, I did have it very lucky, and I have to
Yeah.
acknowledge that. And so a lot of times I when I mention this, I get people saying like, well, why are you such an activist? I'm like, I don't have to be affected personally to be an activist for
Yeah,
other
yeah.
people. It's
No,
such
I
a new
agree.
concept to me that you have to have been personally slighted to be an activist.
No, I agree.
You know, I mean,
I mean,
it's-
I get the same thing when I talk to some of the people in the trans community where they go, they'll say to me, "But you had it so easy. Why do you even care what happens with the rest of us?" And I go, "Well, because I do care, because I can see the amount of suffering other people get.
well,
Yeah, it's
I have
just
to
So
a
say,
it makes a
empathy.
difference to me,
I
and it's the
cannot-
same for anyone in the LGBT."
well, that's the thing. I can only be supportive of half of the trans community because those Decepticons are real rat bastards. Right? The Autobots are great. I love them, but those Decepticons, I gotta say,
Oh my, I love,
I love that.
dearly.
Oh, I love that.
sorry, I have to get every time someone says trans anything, my
Yeah.
brain more than meets
I,
the.
I
Every time,
actually hate the concept of a trans community because there really isn't one. It's in much the same way as saying, oh, the LGBTQ plus community. Well, yeah, okay, there's a parade every year, and which I've never ever been to one.
well,
and-
then I know
and-
people who are like professionally LGBT, where like that's their entire existence. The way
Yeah.
some people are like religion is who they are, and that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've known those people.
Yeah, me too. But
I would
I
rather
can't
not
see
be-
myself ever defining myself like that.
I would rather not be that person because I've got, believe it or not, I've got so many other things going on that, you know, my being lesbian, my being trans, that's part of me, yes, but it is not me.
Yeah,
Well,
I only want to do
you
things
get
for that when
people,
they're
like, they
fun.
see your videos and they think all you are is an atheist or whatever. Because I get that from people a lot, where they only see my videos, so they assume that's everything I am is like a lesbian atheist, and that's all there is to me. And I'm like, but you've only seen like my videos. You don't know my off-screen life at all, and you're making these assumptions about me, and well, you're wrong. So I mean, I don't know if that happens to anyone else who makes videos, but I'm sure it must.
Oh yeah.
Well, it really hasn't happened to me. I've only been recognized once. Just recently I have been recognized here in town as like, oh, I've seen one of your videos, and it's, well, thank you, you know. And only that one person doing that, I don't have that much of an opportunity to be known only as the Lavender Lady. There's certainly less opportunity.
But you
there.
also meant that within the community too, didn't you, Kate? Like how other people in the community also, as in the YouTube community, perceive us as being just what we are from our videos instead of who we are as.
Well, I would hope that
Yeah.
as far as the YouTube community goes, those that are members of would be more open to the fact that we are more than our channels. Maybe
Yeah.
it's not the case. Correct me if I'm wrong, please.
No, I think sometimes, especially when I was starting out, a lot of people were saying, "Oh, you're just a trans woman making videos," and I never ever intended on ever wanting to just be that. I mean, as I said to you before, Diana, I wasn't actually going to come out as trans when I was going to start making videos. I wasn't even going to talk about it.
Yeah,
It was
okay.
only because of some of the other stuff that was happening, and I thought I should come out and make a statement on it. I mean, I don't regret it now because I think there's been some good discussions from that, like the stuff we did with Jay.
Yes,
But,
yes.
And then a couple of the things that you and I want to do, and maybe, I won't talk about the other stuff.
I don't
When
shy
I first
away.
started my channel, it was definitely not an atheist channel. It was an animation channel. And sometimes I wish I'd started another channel for atheism, because now the name Bionic Dance is so associated with it that if I ever have an animation company that's making professional stuff, well, that name is no longer, I mean, because Bionic Dance is a reference to the TV show Bionic 6. It's an animated show.
Okay.
Yeah, just like that poster over your shoulder there.
Yeah, and so like now I kind of regret not making like a channel with the word atheism in it instead. I do have that regret.
Honey, please don't step on my laptop keyboard. You're good.
Yeah, well, I've actually had to say to a few people occasionally, no, well, I don't want to come and talk about trans issues with you guys because I'm not a one-topic person. So. It's like, no.
Let's see if we can fix it.
It's been too long. It's like, no, it's not a big part of my life anymore.
Yeah, I don't shy away from the whole trans thing. I mean, virtually everybody in the world knows I'm trans, and one of the reasons, therefore, is I want people to know that we don't have three heads.
Yeah, well, I'm with you on that too, Diana, but I'm a trans person who does lots of shit. I'm not just a trans. I'm not just
I know
a
that
token
feeling.
trans
Same here.
And that's the thing I'd like people to know, that I'm not just a trans representative. I'm just happen to be a trans woman who does lots of stuff.
Yeah.
And I'd much rather that.
The online community probably doesn't know the half of what I do on my off hours. Well, most of what I do in my off hours is cry, but that's another story entirely. What can I tell you? But
it's not that bad, Diana. It really isn't.
Most people, I suppose, know just how much of a total geekatron I can be. So in my off hours, I mean, since YouTube is my career and I'm not making videos constantly, I have a lot of free time on my hands. And when I'm not rollerblading or like going to various like game nights or whatever, or learning to ride a scooter or going to like lightsaber class, chances are good I'm watching a movie or playing a video game or animating or I don't even know what, but it's like there's a lot more. I mean, okay, yeah, like I say, most of those examples have something to do with a certain amount of geekery, obviously.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with being a geek girl. I'm a geek girl.
Totally. It's just that I don't know if everybody knows that aspect of my world outside of atheism.
Mm-hmm.
Now I pretty much paid you as a geek girl.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you've seen the tattoos or some of the wall scrolls I used to use, or heck, even just my animated backgrounds, I think it's fairly obvious that a lot of my world is sci-fi.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, heck, when you're a year and a half old when Star Wars first comes out, there's a good chance that you're gonna get sucked into the sci-fi community.
So that begs the question: what's your favorite sci-fi?
Oh, well,
Same for you, Diana.
If you'd asked me a year ago, I would have said The Empire Strikes Back, but for some reason, maybe it's just because Disney has been sullying the whole Star Wars, title. I'm gonna go with Tron.
Wow. So from a Disney to a Disney.
Well, yeah, but I mean, Tron is as not Disney-fied as a movie can possibly get, I think.
All right, so if we're talking movies, oh god, Blade Runner, I think for me.
Oh, that's a fantastic film.
Mention, I in the last couple of days have been desperately wanting Cyberpunk, done the way I was first introduced to the genre, because it started out with Shadowrun, and now Shadowrun has a lot of supernatural elements to it that I wish it didn't. Or rather, what I want out of cyberpunk right now is basically Shadowrun without the magic, right?
Okay.
And I have high hopes for the Cyberpunk 2077 game that's coming out in April, because it looks really cool and it looks like they went pretty 80s with it. Because it has that visual design of Blade Runner, but it doesn't seem to have that sort of. I hate to say, Blade Runner is not a well paced movie. It is very slow. And I'm not saying it needs more action scenes. I'm saying it just needs to speed up how quickly they deliver the dialogue. There's a lot of get on with it in Blade Runner, but it still definitely set the standard for what the cyberpunk genre is supposed to look like. It also doesn't have the jacking into the internet thing. So,
yeah,
I don't know. I'd love to see someone make a Shadowrun movie someday.
What I would really love, when you're talking about Blade Runner, the whole screen, the way you have that whole big world displayed on the screen. I would also like to be able to have a very, very large screen and see. I lost the name. The Metropolis.
Oh,
Isn't that really?
Wow, now you're going classic. You are.
Yes,
I've never actually seen that.
1927, I believe it was. I would love to have a very, very large screen just to see that, because that's really the only way you can see it that makes any impact.
Well,
Weren't they talking about remaking Metropolis?
Oh, please don't.
Yeah, I always feel like that when they talk about remaking movies.
Yeah, I was actually having this discussion with somebody about remaking movies and when it should and shouldn't be done. And I think they made a great point, is that if the original movie was based on like a book that came out a long, long ass time ago, maybe even before movies were a thing, it's a lot easier for the audience to accept and digest this new version of something versus when it started out as a movie and it's a big part of your childhood, a big part of, like, if you're a mega fan of this movie and they decide to remake it, it feels a lot more like a betrayal.
Yeah.
Okay, I can get it. Yeah.
Yeah. Which, again, and I know I've mentioned this before, I think that's where a lot of the outrage about The Little Mermaid being black now came from. Less about racism and more about, you're fucking with my childhood, stop that.
And yet, The Little Mermaid in the books was not like Ariel in the Disney. Yeah. So.
Well, I was just going to say that, but how many people are there that know the books?
Probably not very many. But then this is Hans Christian Andersen, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Because he got, as I understand it, really twisted with some of the stories he told, where they get dark and vicious.
Oh, her feet bleed all the time.
I mean, I don't. He's not the one who wrote Cinderella, I don't think. But as I recall, like, to make their feet fit in those glass slippers, the sisters actually, like, literally lopped off some of their toes.
Yes, they did. Yes. And I don't remember where that. There are so many people who wrote pieces and parts of Cinderella. It's gone through so many mutations over the centuries, really, almost.
Yeah.
That it's hard to know who wrote it. And then when you're looking at the Grimm's fairy tales, Grimm, that is, they're not kidding. So what I'd really like to see, as a matter of fact, is a film treatment of the Grimm's fairy tales as written by the brothers Grimm, man. That would be super fun.
Yeah. I don't know. I've been thinking about some of the like fairy tales and songs that I was introduced to when I was really little, and thinking now about, well, A, how incomprehensible some of them are, but two, how like just logic breaking they are. Like, was it Hansel and Gretel where, like, to show that they weren't being fat, they held a chicken bone out to be felt in place of their finger or something? I think that was Hansel and Gretel.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I'm just like, who is fooled by a chicken bone?
The
I-
witch.
You know,
Well, she was
and
blind though.
Why would but still, it's a bone. There's no
I
flesh on
know.
it. And why would like a wolf, no matter how big and bad, think that blowing at a stone building would make it knock? Why would he even try it?
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
God. I just none of it makes sense. None of it.
Well, kids' stories weren't designed to make sense, were they? They were designed to scare the children.
Yeah, but even as a child, some part of me was going, no,
Oh,
no.
so is that where the Old Testament came from?
Well, I mean that's another thing is just some of the okay, we were talking before about my religious experiences as a child.
Yeah.
Has anyone ever been like seriously creeped out by specifically Christian artwork?
Oh.
Because some part of me always, like, I'd look at images of, say, like Jesus doing that whole hands out thing, you know, where his hands are like,
Oh yeah, poke
and
me.
he
Yeah.
looks like really stoned because his eyes are closed and he's supposed to be all gentle and stuff. Some part of me, even as a small child, was going, this is just weird.
Zombie Jesus.
There's something unearthly about this. There's something uncanny valley about the way Jesus is represented. And you look at some of the strange poses that characters have in religious artwork. Like sometimes their necks will just be bent in this weird way and their eyes are always closed. And it's just something about it just said to me, this is not right.
And then there's the one that's been making the rounds recently with the Jesus guy nailed to the cross with the wound in his side, bleeding into a cup that's held by an angel. It's like, you know, where they've got some really, really weird ideas about, especially the
painted
Catholics.
that?
So,
The Catholic. Yeah, it's a Catholic thing. Yeah, it's a big Catholic thing.
And then there's religious language too, like his grace be upon you and all that stuff. I'm just like, this sounds so unnatural. Nobody speaks like that. And it just, I don't know, there was always something about religion that I found weirdly creepy.
But it goes back to the us and them sort of thing. Because originally everything that was religious writing or doctrine was only for the priests, because they were the only ones who learned to read and write the Latin.
Read and
write it all. So you were either wealthy or you were religious. You were a priest to do it, and you held that knowledge away from the public, so you could tell them whatever you wanted. Which was the same as what happened in Old Testament times, because it was still the wealthy and the priesthood who could read the scrolls. So you're in control of the masses by what you're telling them the narrative is. So they had their own language for that, and it was supposed to bring up fear, the fear of God, so that you could control them.
And you talk about the
language. Have you ever
language.
noticed that there are no happy religious songs that aren't modern? Like, seriously, you listen to Gregorian chants, it sounds creepy as hell. You know, you listen to a lot of, well, heck, I was even just listening to Christmas music, and a lot of it, like the older stuff, tends to be in like a minor key, and it's not exactly joyful in any way. Like you listen to Carol of the Bells, I would put that in a horror movie because it sounds terrifying. It sounds like something where, like, I'm being pursued by some legless specter that's coming after me. It's terrifying.
Oh, now there's an animation to do, Kate.
Yeah,
Christmas horror story.
I mean, it's kind of the way was it In the Hall of the Mountain King sounds like an evil version of Mary Had a Little Lamb.
Yes, yes, yes.
It's funny
Mary
because
had
I
a
saw
little
my
lamb,
Bill
little
Bailey
lamb.
doing that, but I came up with that on my own a long time ago. But it really does, it's like Mary had a little lamb, little lamb, little lamb. Mary had a little lamb, a sweet, sweet, white as snow. It's like creepy music. But I mean, like you listen to any Christian hymn, and it just sounds dreary. And
Yeah,
so
it's either that creepy minor key or it's a dirge.
yeah, and
Yeah,
just
there's
like
the one.
how are people not? I mean, how can anyone find joy in any of this when so much of it is creepy? I
And
don't. I really don't.
even the stuff that isn't in a minor key. Those of you who remember the Christmas Carol, "O Holy Night," it's written in D flat major. You've got what, 5 flats going. Some of us find it a little comforting, but there are the others who find it just.
Silent Night?
"O Holy
You
Night."
said- I actually like
Oh,
O Holy Night.
the
Yes, I know
stars
how
are
it
bright.
goes.
Yeah, that one. Some I can actually find it comforting.
No,
at
I'll
times.
rephrase that. I used to like it until they did it on South Park.
Like the only Christmas songs I can think of that I enjoy have nothing to do with religion, like Jingle Bells.
And if I
That's
remember
actually an
correctly,
upbeat song.
was it the case that Jingle Bells wasn't even a Christmas song at first?
Well, I'm sure.
It was.
Okay, let's go this way. The version of it I know best has to be Jingle Bells, Batman Smells, Robin laid an egg. That one.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember which one it was. If it was Jingle Bells or if it was Over the River and Through the Woods that was originally supposed to have been for Thanksgiving.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
to
that
grandmother's
sounds more
house
like
you
it.
go. That makes sense.
Over the river and through the woods to grandmother's house we go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Another song ruined by South Park.
I know. Of course, the best Christmas song of all time has to be "It's Christmas at Ground Zero."
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, my point was that religion, especially Christianity, is creepy. It really is. There's something to me that just wigs me out. And I'm sure like that's really hard to relate to for anyone who's still Christian and loves the heck out of it. But I mean, this is why I still need that empathy helmet so that people can experience things the way I experience them and understand, oh my gosh, it's like that. Because, I mean, just trying to get someone to help me out with music suggestions is next to impossible because they don't understand how it is I'm experiencing the song.
Yeah. And then the whole creepy thing, everything else. Growing up Catholic, I got a lot of that whole martyr complex shoved into my face, where even the penguins in the classrooms in the Catholic school were extolling the virtues of being.
I was going to say, why did you have penguins in your classroom?
It did take me a second too, but then I remembered the Blues Brothers.
Yeah. The habits,
None.
the whole thing. They're extolling the virtues of being a martyr, and they're doing this to the kids.
How is there a virtue really in being a martyr?
I don't get that.
I never really understood it. I mean, okay, granted, I get the idea of sacrificing yourself for the good of someone else.
Well, the great
There's a child over there, and I'm going to dive in front of the bullet. Okay, I get that. But the whole idea of I'm going to set out to be a martyr.
Yeah.
I
don't get that either. That just sounds to me like somebody with a death wish.
Well, I was also going off on Facebook about the fact that I don't really get the concept of the chosen one. I mean, when you think about Jesus, for example, he wasn't a chosen one. He was a built from the ground up to fulfill this purpose one. He was never chosen. If someone is going to be a chosen one, you'd think they'd have to be some schmuck already walking around. Then all of a sudden a situation comes up and whatever deity exists in this fictional universe goes, I need a champion. Who fits the bill? You. But that also kind of requires a non-Abrahamic God, one of the ones who has like a specialty, like how Thor is the god of thunder and all that stuff. I mean, that's one thing that I think is like the problem of evil goes away entirely if God isn't perfect. But the Christians had to have a perfect God who can do anything, and that kind of screwed up the logic of their narrative. But when you have a pantheon of gods with specialties, I'm the god of love, I'm the god of war, I'm the god of this, that, and the other thing, it actually makes a lot more sense that they could have a chosen one where they're not omnipotent, they're not omniscient, and so when they needed a champion, they would have to go out looking for the right fella.
My question though is, if they're not omnipotent and they're not omniscient, are they actually gods at that point?
Well, why wouldn't they be?
Well, what's the difference between just a being that's very powerful and a god?
Well, I've wrestled with that question myself, but the fact is that pantheistic religions existed long before the Abrahamic.
I agree.
And they had gods. They defined like these are creatures who are gods. I'm not really sure what the necessary attributes are to be a god rather than just a magical being. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's so ingrained into our culture now that a god has to be this omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent thing.
I always think that's self-contradictory.
Well, of course it is, but I mean...
Well, I mean, we still know, though, about the... that you learn in school, in literature class, about the Greek and Roman gods. They were not omniscient. They were not omnipresent. They were not omnipotent. But they were very human, in fact. Interesting
they were kind of
thing,
cool, actually.
Say again?
They were kind of cool.
Yeah. And
I could get behind gods like that.
I mean, as far as I'm considering, those classical gods were very cool because of their humanity. Because they were so much like us. The inventors of those gods projected themselves onto their literary inventions. Basically.
Well, and I mean, it was kind of interesting the way people would worship them, where they'd be like, well, I'm from the church of this specific god. I'm from the cult of this other god in the same pantheon, that kind of thing, where they specialized. And I think it'd be interesting to see like Christians dividing themselves up into, well, we're the Jesusites, we're the Jehovahites, and we're the Holy Ghostites, or whatever.
Well, you've got the Marionites, as far as that goes, so they're getting started with it.
Wouldn't those be marionettes? I mean, they're God's puppets.
Yeah, pretty much. It's amazing, though, when you get into the whole Catholic thing about how much devotion is showered upon the Madonna. They bristle when you say goddess, but that's what she is. Come on, really.
Madonna was awesome. She was a staple of the 80s. I mean,
there you go.
Who can deny that Material Girl is an awesome song?
Absolutely. Oh, my.
For the longest time, I thought Madonna was like a stage name and that she was actually raised with a different name, but apparently not. And
No.
I'm wondering where I got that idea.
Maybe because at the time, anyway, not many parents named their daughters Madonna.
No, I wouldn't have known any of that because I was raised without religion. I didn't even know what Madonna meant for the longest time. As far as I was concerned, the only thing that Madonna meant was an 80s singer. I had no idea that there was that had religious connotations at all. But I seem to remember someone saying that, because someone would have had to tell me, oh yeah, her name wasn't originally Madonna. Her name used to be like Carolyn or something. And then she took Madonna when she became a star. But apparently not.
No, let me put this up here. Okay, let's see if I can do this right. Madonna Louise Ciccone.
Oh, that's a good Catholic name.
Oh, very Catholic. Well, at least the family was. Very Italian.
Yeah.
Born in Bay City, Michigan. I would have expected New Jersey, but no. Michigan, and other names, Veronica, which was her confirmation name.
Maybe that's what I heard.
So her name was originally Veronica.
Maybe. And her
Yeah, well,
name.
the whole confirmation thing is that's never part of your actual legal name or anything. Well, I made it.
And then I know someone told me, and I don't know.
Yeah, I made my confirmation name part of my legal name just by usage.
Do-
Started
Does
signing my
anyone
name's
ever, like,
Edward
you hear,
James.
when I hear about a confirmation name like that, it always sounds to me like someone getting made in the mafia.
You're not that far off, really, when you think about it. I think they still do it. The whole ceremony, you get in the line, you go up, and the bishop is sitting up on the throne in the altar area and the whole thing. And he does the thumb in the grease and puts it on your forehead, and then slaps you.
Does he?
Yes.
I did not know that.
Really?
And the slap, I think, is supposed to signify the trials and tribulations that you will face being in the army of God and all that bullshit.
Do they really put their arm into it, or is it just sort of a perfunctory?
No, it's
pat?
just a little pat sort of thing. It's
So
nothing,
there's no like. Whoosh.
right. It's not like the video that went viral a year or two ago with the bishop really mistreating those kids.
I missed that one actually, and I think I might be.
Well,
glad.
what's new about that bishop's mistreating kids?
And I don't believe he's actually a bishop because he probably doesn't just move diagonally.
Well,
He's more of a queen.
I was going to say, were he a queen, he could go wherever he wanted. Oh my. Let's see how we're doing over here. There we are. We can get that back. I definitely have to screw around with this whole video system. Hopefully by the time I get through with all the redoing, it's going to look better than it does now, but it's going to take a hell of a lot of work.
So how hard was it for you to get out of being a Catholic?
It was not that difficult. I was lucky. I say as part of a joke, but it's really not that much of a joke, that my family, especially the slimy bastards, were not religious at all. They were Roman Catholic. My babka lived her Catholicism, but she was not obnoxious about it. But her kids probably could not have recited a plank of Catholic theology to save their lives. They mostly wore it as an identity badge. Well, the one day that, back when he was still talking to me, when I was on the phone with the male slimy bastard, happened to mention something about Mr. Obama, who was sitting president at the time, and he goes off the handle, part of it being, well, he's not even Christian, which of course we all know is not the case, but that's,
well, I mean, he is from Kenya.
Yeah, absolutely, and we can thank our current president for bringing that to light back then. But yeah, it was. They knew about the rules that you had to follow, but they had no idea about what it was all about. So all I had to do was drop those crazy things that they had you do, those stupid actions that I thought were stupid when I was a kid, and that was pretty much it. I did not get the indoctrination I hear from a lot of people, say in some of the really fundamentalist sects, where it becomes part of your very being. And then part of it too, I'll pat myself on the back here, that I was a smart kid. I was a little more intelligent than the average kid in that Catholic school, and I was able to see past or see through a lot of that shit. So that helped as well. But I was severely questioning Catholicism by the age of 10. And I was out totally by the time I was, maybe 15, 16. I couldn't say it because
you were out of religion younger than I was.
Yeah, I would have been supporting myself on a job at McDonald's had I said, "Hey, Mom, hey, Dad, I'm an atheist." But so it wasn't until I was at uni that I was able to use the A word. But yeah, it was I did not accept or believe.
Right. I didn't start getting out of religion until I was about 26.
Okay.
But I wasn't really heavily in religion either, so it was a two-way sort of thing. It was like I said in the video I did about my coming out as being an atheist, was my dad was a school teacher, and he prided himself on science and critical thinking. So he believed in evolution. He believed the age of the universe. He believed in the Big Bang. He just thought God started it all and that God was guiding us.
Oh, he was one of those theistic evolutionists. Okay.
Yeah, it was the theistic evolution. Well, no, he didn't necessarily think that God made evolution happen in a particular way, but he did think God kicked each of these things off so things would happen.
Okay.
See, it always strikes me as kind of wacky when someone's belief is that like the universe is exactly as it appears and exactly the way it would be if there was no God, except there's a God.
That's kind of
added
Well,
on
he'd grown up in the religion all his life and had the indoctrination from the earlier times in it. But he was still very much a critical thinker. He'd even understood where he'd done all the research, and he knew where all the different stories that had evolved into what was the Bible came from. So he could tell you the history of where different books of the Old Testament evolved from in earlier documents. So he knew all that. He knew it wasn't there, but he still had a faith. But his faith wasn't a traditional Christian faith. But we did as kids go to the Uniting Church in Australia, which is a very forward-thinking church. It's pro-LGBTQ and all that over here. It's one of the most forward-thinking churches in the country.
Oh, man, that's the thing. I wasn't out about myself in my younger. Well, I didn't even know that much about myself in my younger days. I didn't know. Well, I knew that something was up, but I didn't know that it was called trans. I didn't know that I was. I didn't know that I was gay. Not until I realized, hey, wait a minute, I'm a girl, but I still like girls. Okay, I guess that means I'm not quite as straight as everybody wanted me to be. But where was I going with this thing? Yeah, okay, got derailed there, but that's no big deal. Just dropped my load of coal at the side of the track, and we're all set. I've seen that happen. That's.
So yeah, when it came to me, it was like I basically had my dad's ideas. So yeah, I thought that God just kickstarted it, and he was pretty. He was there if he was desperately needed, but that was about it, sort of thing. And I didn't have any of this fear of hell or stuff like that because it was never pushed in or anything like that. So because I didn't have that, I had no really big push to walk away from the church either because I didn't feel entrapped by it.
Okay.
So it took... I did have problems growing up reconciling myself being trans with being a Christian.
Yes, I love it.
Like it.
Yeah, well, I was just looking through some pictures and happened across that one that I forgot it existed. So
that's awesome. So yeah, I didn't really have that issue. So when eventually, around the time that I started transitioning, I started rethinking about it. Well, how I felt about that, and I realized that there's no way the God of the Bible is a real person, because I already know it. None of this stuff's real anyway. So I went from that to being spiritualistic, where I kind of my religion was almost Minbari.
Okay. Now I can
Like the
remember.
universe was its own god, and
Oh, fun.
yeah,
Sounds sort of pantheistic.
it almost was. But
This
I
is
was
the other
sort of
thing.
But I moved on from there to listening to Aaron Ra and Matt and a few other people, and yourself, Kate. That was later, obviously, but
This is something I
and
never understood about pantheism.
and then I became more. I suddenly realized I don't believe any of it.
About pantheism, I never got who would worship a skillet and why.
Yeah, they're not a frying pantheist.
Right.
Although every time I hear someone describe themselves as a pansexual, my brain is like, you have sex with satyrs?
Hey, I describe myself as a pansexual, only because it confuses people, and then I have to explain it. So. I used to always say bisexual, but as soon as I learned about the term pansexual, I thought, that's awesome, because I always have, because people, when you say you're bisexual, people think, oh, your attraction is only male or female, and I'm like, well, my attraction is to people's minds. I actually don't give a shit about what gender people are. So,
Well, I mean, I've often told people I'm a bisexual because if I want sex, I have to buy it.
Okay. I know that feeling.
so that's why Diana and I are transsexuals, because we like having sex in trains.
Yeah, pretty much.
Actually, I've never done that. That's one thing I've never done. I've had sex in some weird places, but never on a train.
Okay, neither have I, come to think of it.
I mean, we don't have passenger trains anyway, so well, we do, but I mean not overnight ones which have sleeping compartments. So it'd be a bit hard having it on a train here, because all you've got is commuter trains.
Well,
We've got
here
in the U.S.
in the U.S. we do have the passenger trains, but we might as well not.
Ah, okay.
As I was looking into getting here and there by rail just recently, and like for example, for me to get from here to Dallas by rail, it can't be done.
Really?
I tried and tried and tried, and the best I could do was transferring from rail to bus and back 5 or 6 times. The trip would take as long as
Longer than the
walking
car.
there, basically, over a day, and because I would like, if I could manage, to get the Faithless Forum next year, if I can get the money together, etc., etc. And I really don't want to fly because I've heard
your
all the
arms would get
stories.
tired.
Say again?
Your arms would get tired.
Absolutely. Now I've heard the stories from other trans women, and I just don't want to put up with that sort of humiliation. But the more I look at it, the more it looks like I'd have to fly if I wanted to get there in any
Why is flying a humiliation?
Transportation Safety Administration. Remember, this is the United States. You keep forgetting that.
But I've been to the US, Diana. You forgot that.
Prior to the whole big thing, well, it started with
9/11.
9/11 thing, and
Yeah, it was post 9/11 that I went to the US.
And especially now, since it's become fashionable to be bigoted and to be fascistic in this new administration we've got, it's got bad.
Well, I imagine it would be bad now with the current administration, but that would only be a thing since Trump.
And well, some of the stories I've heard actually do predate Trump.
Because I did domestic flights within the US when I was over there, and I don't remember. I've never had any problem at all.
Well, somebody like me would have a bit of a problem, at least others like me have said they have, where the scanners have the boy button and the girl button. And okay, say I
too.
walk up and they hit the girl button, and then there's something in my crotch that doesn't belong there, and then you get pulled over to the private room. And
Okay. Well, yes, I was.
Wait a minute. I didn't know they had a boy button or girl button. I'd never heard that.
as far as I knew, on many of the scanners, if not all of them,
Is that because of
certain body
Because-
parts showing up that they want to make sure that the right body parts are there.
But I've looked at the screen when you go through that, and it only has like a generic body with little squares for where there might be metal. I've
Okay.
never seen what you're talking about ever.
So I remember people talking about this. It was a few years ago, mind you, maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, that I was.
Yeah.
There was a person who was telling the story about, look, I'm trans. You might as well just hit the guy button, even though I look like a girl. And they insisted on hitting the girl button, and then, okay, what's that between your legs? And then all of a sudden, all kinds of shit and everything else.
See, because I mean, you're talking about flesh there. The scanners aren't designed to pick up flesh; they're designed
No,
to
they're
pick up
not.
metal.
That's a very, I've never heard this story ever until now.
Yeah, you're actually blowing my mind there, Dad. I've never heard of anything
I
like
wish
that.
I had that story so I could cite it. It wasn't a
Yeah.
number of years ago that I
Now,
read
now
it.
I'm going to have to look that up.
Yeah. And if you find it before I do, then maybe you can either confirm me or prove me wrong. Either way.
If I find it before you do, I might even end up making a video about it because it sounds weird as all shit.
Yeah. And I mean, I remember last time this came up, you were talking about like whether or not they'll pat you down or something. And number one, I've never seen a private room. They usually just take you off to the side. But number two, when they found something on my person that I don't even know what the hell it was, I mean, like a rivet on my jeans or something, they were patting with the back of their hands to make sure that they weren't like grabbing anything. Like that's part of it.
I've heard people describe being grabbed. Now maybe they're making it up, or maybe
Maybe it's a regional thing. I mean,
Maybe.
maybe it's
Maybe.
happening like in some rabidly bigoted place like the South.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
that would
could
be-
also find that it's also different people have different concepts of personal space.
Okay.
And so if you've got a trans person who is very self-conscious of their personal space, they may find that they're feeling more invaded by something that I or Kate might not find invasive.
Now, my whole thing about it is, okay, if you're going to grab my crotch, at least you could take me out to dinner. But other than that, it's maybe I fear too much. Maybe I'm paranoid. It would be nice to find out that I was
I
paranoid
can
and everything
understand-
was better than I think it is.
I can understand why you are. I mean, I've been post-op for a really long time, but there's parts of the world I still wouldn't go to because
then.
of your risks. But I don't think I'd have any problems flying anywhere in the US.
It would be nice if I could go anywhere I wanted without much of a worry or anything like that. Or
I'd actually be more worried about the idiot with guns who think that it's a good idea to carry them into supermarkets.
Yeah.
But that's an entirely different subject.
Yeah, the one photograph that made the rounds a while back of the
With the three guns.
Well, there was the one of the woman shopping for bread with the 45 sidearm, and just pretty cute. Other than the sidearm, damn it.
Why? I don't. I mean, I do. I do understand that you have a gun culture there.
Yeah.
I just don't understand
romanticize the
why
Wild
people
West.
think this is cool.
Okay, I mean, I'm sorry, this is a bit of interruption, but it's going back to what we were talking about before. I just looked at the TSA.gov site about transgender
Okay.
passengers,
Prove
and
me
it does
wrong, please,
mention.
please, please prove me wrong.
It does. Well, no, I don't have anything for that story of yours because it may have happened anyway, but they do have some guidelines here.
Okay, go on.
Right? So, like it says here, TSA recognizes the concerns that some members of the transgender community may have with certain security screening procedures at the nation's security checkpoints. TSA is committed to ensuring all travelers are treated with respect and courtesy. Screening is conducted without regard to a person's race, color, sex, gender identity, national origin, religion, or disability. No Oxford comma, fuck you, TSA. Let's see. So, it has here like making reservations. TSA verifies identification through secure flight, whatever that is. There's a link. When making a reservation, you are encouraged to use the same name, gender, and birth date as indicated on your government-issued ID. Read additional information about identification.
Well,
And
I've
it's
got
got
no problem with that.
It's got stuff about packing baggage. You can contact the TSA in advance, it says, with questions about screening policies. So it doesn't like make a reservation for who and what I may be. Let's see. So it has process. There's the imaging portal thing where you have to do this when it does the. It does say there is the officer presses a button designating a gender based on how you present yourself. The machine has software that looks at the anatomy of men and women differently. The equipment conducts a scan and indicates areas on the body warranting further inspection if necessary. If there's an alarm, TSA officers are trained to clear the alarm, not the individual. Additional screening is conducted to determine whether a prohibited item is present. Let's see, there's a pat-down option. And it says if you cannot or choose not to be screened by advanced imaging technology or a walk-through metal detector, you will undergo a pat-down procedure instead. You may also undergo a pat-down procedure if you alarm the screen. Sorry, my camera's in the way, which is why I'm ducking and dodging.
Sure, yeah, no problem.
If you alarm the screening equipment and or at random, if a pat-down is performed, it will be conducted by an officer of the same gender as you present yourself. Screening can be conducted in a private screening area with a witness or companion of the traveler's choosing. And then there's the additional guidance for prostheses. Let's see, you may request a private screening or speak with a supervisor at any time during the screening process. Requesting a pat-down, you may request to receive a pat-down instead of AIT screening. You may request to have a pat-down in private. All right, it's already said all of this stuff.
Yeah.
If you have witnessed unprofessional conduct or experienced an inappropriate screening process at a security checkpoint, you may request to speak with a supervisor at the checkpoint. You may also submit your concern to the TSA contact center. If you've experienced discrimination, you may email or submit a civil rights complaint. So they do have things in position, like you do have options here apparently. I don't see the story specifically you were talking about, but I do see something here on Vice.com, the horrible things that happen to trans people going through airport security. I see that. I see an opinion piece on the New York Times. I don't know. I don't see specifically the story you were talking about, though.
Yeah, the story I'm talking about was written by a trans woman. This was several years ago, and it might be an isolated incident. It would be nice were it isolated. It's still shitty that it happened to her, but I don't know. Maybe I don't have to feel as trepidatious as I.
You may find her writing her story also helped change some of their policies.
Yeah,
so something bad happened for someone, but now they've got better policies in place to help. I'm not saying it'll be necessarily good. It's probably better for somebody going through if they're post-op.
Yeah, I definitely give you that, and I mean that's only one of the reasons I wish I could be post-op.
But of course, when I went through the scanning machine that you guys are talking about didn't exist. It was all metal detectors.
I am seeing something here about a trans guy who is going through something wacky.
Okay. Is it? Does it have a dateline?
Let me see here. 2017.
Relatively recent. Okay, I think more recent than the story I'm describing.
Okay. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of articles here, but I couldn't tell you much.
Might have been because if he'd had phalloplasty and it had the inserts for getting an erection within his penis, they might have picked those up as a item.
Holy crap, that's a hell of a tattoo this person has. Like seriously, from wrist to sleeve, entirely black.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Okay then. Yeah, the whole, I mean, given that I could get the money together, which is not guaranteed, getting down to, well, Thomas has made some noises about possibly Austin rather than Dallas, but Austin would be another $100 over the price of flying to Dallas. Driving down there would be a 2-day affair. I'd have to go halfway, stop for the night, and then go again.
That sounds like fun, Diana. A 2-day affair.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've had an affair of any sort. They have their advantages, but then again, there's that whole illicit thing going on.
I've actually never had an affair. I've had a lot of partners, but I've always had one at a time.
Yeah, I've never felt the need to be either polyamorous, and I've certainly never cheated. It's just not who I am. I'm built to be monogamous, I think.
Yeah,
well, as am I. Now, I was not exactly honorable in my younger days. That's a part of my life that I'm not exactly proud of. I did fall hard for somebody. And it's that sort of like that song. It's hard to belong to someone else when the right one comes along. And we did have a 3-year affair.
Wow.
And I don't know. It's, as I say, it's a part of my life, and I'm not going to recommend it to anyone. But it was what it was.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. There's not much point regretting things you do in your life because they're done. They're over with. You learnt from them. You either enjoyed them or didn't, and you learnt from them.
Yeah, I would have to wonder what she would think of me now. It would be really interesting.
She'd probably go, "You're hot."
It would either be
regret, though.
You know, it would either be or now I understand.
Yeah, see, that's the thing is there's a lot of things that, honestly, as a child, I wasn't equipped to understand them, and that had a huge impact on the rest of my life. Like, there are a lot of things where now I see as goals I'd like to reach that, honestly, really should have been started at least in middle school, if not elementary school.
Okay.
So, I mean, like, okay, one of my mom's cousins works in the entertainment industry. And apparently, if I start taking acting classes, he can give me an in on getting roles, or at least auditions, right? But the thing is that I haven't taken acting classes. And while I've definitely done some voices for my own animations, and I feel like I can do a pretty good presentation in a video, that's not necessarily playing a role. And so I would have loved to have gone back with the knowledge I have now and started learning acting as a child.
Oh, isn't it always the way? I'd like to do it with the knowledge I have now.
Yeah, where I know now what I knew then. And by the way, were you not to take the acting classes, could you at least get some biscuits?
What?
Rather than rolls?
Yeah.
Oh, but
I know.
No,
I will never be as good at this as you are.
Stupid phone. I really wish there was a way to disable the security on my phone so I could do this more quickly. So So,
man.
to bring up something we were talking about earlier, at least I was, you remember I was talking about how I shifted gears in the middle of this animation I'm working on.
Yes.
What? What? Why is it stop? That's not sharing. I don't know why it did that. Okay, present now, window, this, and share. There we go. That is how the character has changed over time.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. Now,
Kind of
I
lost
have
a
been
dimension there.
what?
Kind of lost a dimension there.
Well, that's because it's supposed to look two-dimensional now. But the thing is that I've been having a very difficult time getting the sort of anime style character to have that sort of strong-chinned, like Buzz Lightyear kind of look to him.
Okay.
You know, he became a little more childlike, and I've been trying to find a way to give him that same look while still maintaining that sort of anime style like vibe. And it's not easy.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's just something I ran across that picture. I didn't know I still had it, and I thought I'd share it.
I don't know, for an anime look, are the eyes big enough? I mean, I thought that if you were
Yeah,
going to
they're
draw anime,
almost
the eyes had to be like most of the face.
they're almost too big, honestly.
Okay.
And also, it depends on the style of anime because some of them have more realistic eyes, honestly.
Okay, then.
Yeah.
Well, girls, I'm probably going to have to leave you two to it
That's all right. I should probably eat food.
because
Yeah.
I mean, it's 3 a.m. now and I need sleep.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's getting like
being
that.
12 hours ahead of me, yeah, I keep forget. This is the thing, I've said it many times, and I still have
Oh,
to get
never
used to
mind
it.
that, Diane. I love joining in, so you know me. And now I don't have to get up for
I
the
could
other
run,
show in
I
the
could
morning.
run
It's
with that, but
great.
I'm going to be a good girl. Uh, no, in this age of the interwebs and everything else, and especially being on YouTube, whatever, the things you really have to learn are geography and time zones.
Well, that and translating like imperial to metric.
Yeah,
Back
definitely,
again.
definitely. And
I
this
mean,
is
I'll be honest. I find that really difficult, not because of any sort of like math or anything, but just having that relative measure of like, okay, if I was going to travel 35 miles an hour, I mean, I have how fast that should be in my head, but translating
yes.
it to kilometers, I don't have that. Like, if I wanted to say, okay, this is a comfortable day, temperature wise, I don't have that sort of like range of this is what it should be Celsius, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the really hard part is finding those familiar numbers.
Now, it's familiar when I'm in the lab, and unfortunately, I haven't been in the lab for a very long time. So, when I'm at a lab bench, the SI system is second nature. You know, everything's in grams, everything's in degrees C, that whole thing. But here, sitting in the chair in my living room, to get to the grocery store, I'll walk a little less than a mile. None of this kilometer stuff. It just doesn't register in my head the way you're talking about, Kate.
So you walk 1,500 meters.
Something like that. The one that really surprised me was that section of highway from Tucson to the border that's marked off in kilometers. It's the only section of highway in the U.S. that's solely marked off in kilometers. I got kind of taken aback when I was driving that, because I was going from Tucson to Nogales. It was like, oh wow, look at that, So okay, how far have I gone? But yeah, especially when I think back to the space program, et cetera, et cetera. I'm still going to be, I'm going to die in nautical miles, feet per second, that sort of thing that I remember from the glory days.
And why in Hades would we have a nautical mile? And is it different from a regular mile?
Yes, it
It
is
is.
actually.
Why bother?
It's based upon a certain number of minutes of latitude, I believe. It's an arc
Yeah.
measure rather than a length of a king's
Uh,
foot. One of those
I
deals.
Yeah. So you'd measure it with a sextant
Yeah.
or knots over the edge to a timer.
Well, knots. That's just a nautical mile per hour.
Knots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you
Hey,
had.
I'm gonna go get food. Kate
Okay.
hungry. It's
Alrighty.
I need food.
What do you got coming up, Kate? Aside from your animation, that's awesome.
Oh, well, I actually just put out a channel update video. I'm taking a brief break because
saw
I need to
that.
recharge a bit. I am still working on stuff for the channel, like some new animated backgrounds and intros and outros and stuff. So it's not like I'm abandoning it, but I really need to take some time off just for myself for a while.
Okay, now there's the other one, and I'm really not necessarily trying to be punny here or anything, but you have the intro and the outro. Now, the intro, I understand. That's a contraction of introduction. So what's an
Yes.
outro? Is that a contraction of outroduction?
No, it's just sort of a bastardization of
It's a
intro.
back formation, definitely. Yeah, but I mean, it's
Yeah.
like, okay.
Well,
Anyway,
food now. Have fun.
Bye,
it was
Kate.
great having you here, Kate. Always
good
love
talking.
to have you here, and I'll shut my mouth now. And bon appetit. Okay, so it's you and me,
Okay.
kid. You're gonna take
Well,
off. And,
I'm going to take off too. You're going to have it all on your own. I assume you're going to shut it down early.
Well, I'm gonna shut down because number one, I'd like some food as well, and number two, I'm gonna start tearing the machine apart so I can convert the system to a dual boot, and I'm going to install another hard drive, and then probably going to be 3 or 4 days just trying to see if I can get Windows 10 to work, and then I'll drop Linux on the partitions it's currently on to boot back and forth whenever I need to, but it's going to be fun. So the fundraiser coming up on the 5th, the fundraising live stream, is probably going to come from my older machine. So we'll see how that will work. Let's probably grab, the hell is it called? StreamYard or whatever the hell it is. And
Yeah, you stream it.
hope it doesn't
Well, that
break.
way it can stream it for you. You just can't have as many people in, that's all.
Yeah, that's, what is that? That's half a dozen people.
Yeah. Yeah,
Ooh.
6.
Yeah, because you know about Worley's thing, right? Where he's doing the
Yeah, I do.
fundraiser for World Wildlife Fund. Yeah,
My personal experience with the World Wildlife Fund isn't great, so.
New key.
Yeah, I used to be a donator, and when I first a long time ago lost a job, I was donating $50 a month, and of course I lost my job, and there was no way I could afford to do the $50 a month. So I phoned them up and asked them to remove the donation, at least until I found a new job. And they kept taking it out. And I phoned them up about 8 or 9 times. In the end, I had to go to the bank and have new cards issued and not tell them what the new number was to draw the money, because they wouldn't stop the payment. So that's my
fun.
And they have phoned me up that many times since to ask me to become a donator. And I've said, no. And they go, oh, why? And I said, because you donated in the past. I said, yeah, for about 4 months when I was unemployed, when I couldn't afford to do it, you were taking it out of my bank account. When I'd asked you not to, when I'd asked it to be cancelled, and you, but we don't care. I'm not giving up. It's like, no, you were just so difficult to deal with. You made my life a hell with it because of what I had to do. Having a cancelled bank card so you can stop the payment coming out is really frustrating.
Yeah,
because you have to make sure any other payments are actually
It changes everything. Yes, it does. Well, that's
So
one of
yeah,
the reasons. That's the main reason I don't donate to the public television system here in the U.S. anymore.
I
Not that they were taking money out of my account, but I would have a budget. Okay, I could give you $60 this year, and then I would get call after call after call. We're looking for more money, and could you spare another 100? And it's like, I don't have that. Get it through your
yeah.
thick fucking skull.
So that's my thing with donations now. I will not donate if they ask you to do an ongoing donation. It doesn't matter who the place is. I straight out say,
Right.
I've had a bad experience. I will never do that again. If you're running around with a tin and you want me to drop $10 in, I'm more than happy to do that if I think it's a good cause. Or I'm more than happy to help out with other fundraisers for other things and stuff like that. But yeah, my personal thing on raising money for places that want to just you regularly give them money, they can just no.
Yeah.
I will give you money when I've got the money and I'm able to give the money.
Oh gods, I know that feeling being on a fixed income.
But it's not even that. It's the attitude of them, like that goes with that. I find it reprehensible now.
Yep.
I didn't when I originally did it, but I do now. So, but I mean that doesn't mean I wouldn't donate to most places. I would, but I just got a personal thing against the World Wildlife Fund because they're the ones who ruined my attitude towards all these places.
Okay, then let's tell that story on Worley's live stream.
No one will want to donate. It's why I haven't put up my hand to get involved because while I do agree that it's a good cause, I in my own conscience can't get involved because of who it is.
Mm-hmm.
So while I know I know they actually do good work. I can't for the life of me bring myself to be involved.
Oh man, it sucks to be put into that situation, but what are you gonna do?
Yeah. Well, no. The only person who asked me was Meredith asked if Navadia
Okay,
asked
yeah.
if I wanted to help with one, and I said no. I didn't even tell her why.
Now she thinks you're a foo-foo head.
Yeah, oh no, she knows I've done other stuff for other charity things and that, I was more than happy to help out with Doc, and I've donated money to other fundraiser things that have been up and that, like Shannon's one. I was going to buy myself a mug, a sexual humanism mug, because I thought they looked awesome, and it was going to. I think they sell for $22 US, and in the end, Shannon only donates $5 from that to the thing because she makes less than $10
Oh my.
on that. But for me to get it, when you allowed the exchange rate and get a mug from the US to Australia, it was going to cost me $60 for a $20 mug. So I gave her a $10 donation instead.
Okay then, yeah.
I'm like, I can't justify that. That's just ridiculous. And she's not getting the money for the charity anyway. It's all going to the company that's sending me the mug, and it could be broken by the time it gets here as well. So
And what does it take? Like about 6 weeks to get to you? That they have to.
no, about 5 to 12 days. But
Okay.
that aside, I'm not that interested at that point. So
Well, I suppose that the days that I remember when I was young of allow 6 to 8 weeks for delivery are over by now.
yeah, yeah, it's absolutely nuts. So. But yeah, so we've got a big thing coming up with Atheist Rationale.
Oh yay!
So we're we are going to do AIG. I said Kent Hovind the other day, this morning, didn't I? But I meant
I
AIG.
don't remember offhand. Well, I've
Yeah,
got the memory of
I
an
think I was
elephant.
correct
What's an
this
elephant
morning.
got to remember?
Yeah, they're all the same anyway. But we're going to be 3 trans women having a go at AIG for having a go at us, basically.
Now, I cannot remember. Did you want me there, or were you going to take care of it on your own?
I will look up the videos. I may even send an email to Shannon because she's actually done a lot of this already. So I may as well use some of the stuff that's already there
Because if you want me around, I'd be glad to. But
Oh yeah,
if you
no,
don't,
no,
that's
I
okay
want to
too.
do it. No, you, me, and Atheist Rationale.
To be
So
on
3 of us.
the yeah. Oh, okay. So you are saying the 3 of us when you're talking about you, AR, and me.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's
Okay. I
3
got
I
you now.
meant.
I got you.
Yes, that's 3 because I was talking to you about this last weekend.
Yes, you were.
I was, and I thought it would be a
Just
good
keep me
idea. And then
informed because
I spoke to Shay the other day, and she goes, "Yes, I so want to do that." So we were thinking we'd do that, and I think I said this morning we should do it as one of your.
Oh, that I did. I wasn't dreaming when I remembered.
When you heard that, yes, I said we should make it one of your lavenders,
Okay, then.
or maybe if we get it done in time, the first of your new shows.
There's a possibility as well. Yeah.
So people in chat can look forward to that because it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. I love taking on the bigots.
Yeah.
I haven't done a really...
And especially the religious bigots like Ken Ham.
That's the thing. I haven't had a good shot at somebody like that since John MacArthur last year.
Am I allowed to call him the A word on your channel?
What? Ken Ham?
Yeah.
No, wait a minute. Which A word is this?
Oh, the one I usually say when I'm doing videos.
What, arsehole?
You know, watch my... Yeah, the arsehole. Yeah, that's the one.
I have no pretensions about
Yeah,
ever being
he's an
monetized,
arsehole.
so I don't worry about it.
Come on, he is an arsehole. He's an Australian
he is.
arsehole, but we got rid of him, so...
Yeah, you sent him over here, you...
Yeah. Yeah, we did. And you tried to send us not Matt Powell, you tried to send us...
Oh, Steven Anderson?
Yeah, you tried to send us Steven Anderson. But we stopped you. We stopped you.
Yes, you did, you foo-foo heads. And then what was it?
We don't want him.
He tried to get into New Zealand, and you warned New Zealand ahead of time, so they told him to go to hell as well.
They've stopped him too.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. It is so good. But yeah. So that's going to be good. I've got a video coming out later this week based on that stupid thing that your government is doing where they're backing that funeral parlor employer who's saying that women have to always wear skirts to work, and that trans people have to dress in their original attire and can't use their new names.
Well, they could just go to hell.
Yeah, but your government has told the Department of Justice to support the employer. Yes.
Well, you know, it's this administration where they are going to do that backward shit.
But it's the precedence of it. If they get it through, that precedence is just shocking for all women.
Yeah, absolutely.
And trans men as well, but mostly women are the ones who are going to suffer, both trans and cis. It is absolutely dreadful. And your problem over there is like you have shit like that happen in Australia, and a new government will just get rid of it afterwards. But you've got a problem with the way your separation of government works. That once you've got laws, once you've got precedents in the court, it's very hard for the government to overturn that. You need to go through the courts again, basically.
Jurisprudence here is all based on precedent, and novelty plays almost no part in it. Yeah, so
you really don't want this crap to go through.
Right, and unfortunately...
This could be 20 years of solid discrimination in the US.
Well, there's
coming
going to
for
be
this.
that anyway, unless somebody really gets to working, because we've got two young, hard right justices in the U.S. Supreme Court. So, I mean, their term in the Supreme Court is going to outlive me. I mean, let's face
Yeah,
it.
that's the other thing I don't get. Why are your Supreme Court justices for life?
Allegedly, the idea was to get politics out of the Supreme Court.
Yeah, but all it does is put it in there more.
Yes, it does, especially now that I guess things were a little different, 200 some odd years ago. But
Also,
now,
people didn't live as bloody long.
yeah, that was one of them. I mean, right now you've got, well, here's what I'm hoping for as far as people living long. Ruth
You've
Bader
got
Ginsburg had better live to be 190, the way things are going.
Yeah, but you've also got that hassle that you've got judges who are bloody senile,
Uh-huh.
who shouldn't be there. They should be forced to retire at a certain age.
Yeah, some of the minor courts have that retire at 70 thing installed, but not when you get into the federal courts, not when you get into the Supreme
Anyway,
Court.
I don't see why somebody should take that position for life. I think it's an appointment for a time frame. So you appoint them for 10 years. That's it. After that, somebody else has a go.
Mm-hmm. In the, I'm trying to remember now, in the U.S. Constitution, I don't think there was ever any mention about how long a term of office or a term of the bench should be for the Supreme Court. Yeah, that's all rules and tradition. I guess you could change it if you wanted to without much problem. What I'm really afraid of, and I see it coming, is going to be the seesaw. Let's say we get a rational president this time. Let's say we get a rational Senate and keep the House rational. All they're going to be doing throughout their entire terms is reversing everything that's being done now with the jackass who was reversing everything that his predecessor did.
Yeah.
And I've read an article.
And you don't get any achievement that way.
Right. I've read an article.
Look, one of the things I think would help this, and it's one of the things I advocate for in Australia, is that voting within Parliament should be by secret ballot. So our representatives don't yell out ayes or nays or walk across the floor. They have a little button and they vote anonymously. You override the party system. The candidates can vote according to their conscience. I know it removes a certain level of accountability because you don't necessarily know how your representative was voting on certain issues, but it does allow them to vote by conscience and not down party lines, and it removes a power base from the party.
That would be an interesting show to have, and maybe if I do get that second live stream going, which would be more news and views oriented than Coffee with Lavender, maybe that would be a good one. Say, drag Luciano on again if he would be willing. And
Progressive liberal.
That's another one, yeah, and talk this out.
Yeah, it'd be a great discussion. I'd happily do that one with you. Pick a better time.
Well, the other stream would definitely not be at noon.
No, do an evening one for you, so I'll just get up early in the morning for it.
That's my first thought.
Yeah.
Maybe 7 or 8 p.m. or something like that. That's still kind of early for you, but
yeah, no, that's fine. It's no different to what I was doing every week for Nuanced Nonsense. So, and it wouldn't be every week; it'd only be when you want me as a guest. So,
okay, then it's just get my arse moving on that one. Because I've been thinking about it for a while, and
that sounds good. Well, if we can get stuff together with HDS Rationale, you could either do that, the one with Shay as your first one, or this political one with
Well,
couple
that
of guests.
doesn't have to be the first one. It can just show up whenever it shows up. Because
Well, that's true.
I would like it
But
to be a regular show.
oh no,
More-
I'm just saying you've got 2 topics now that you can do for those shows.
Yeah, there you go. And
So that's a good
the
start.
other thing I was thinking of was reading the news and basically offering commentary. Sort of.
Oh, that's always a good one.
Yeah, it's sort of like Randy Rhodes, but not as obnoxious. Well, I love her dearly anyway, but she's definitely outspoken.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've watched her show, if you know what I'm talking about.
No, I haven't.
Okay, she's a news and views type person who has an afternoon show. I think it's twice a week.
Oh, okay.
I've called into her already and offered my opinions on a few things, and she's definitely not mainstream. Definitely an independent. Does her thing and is proud of it.
Cool. That's awesome. Anyway, I'm falling asleep, Diana. So
No, you need sleep and you need the other stuff and everything else, and
Yeah.
we'll do it from there. And yeah, I'll probably end up shutting this down here, and so what I'll do.
thank you for everybody for staying with us. We have been going we're heading up towards 3 hours now, plus your show before. So the
It
viewers
always
are
works
your
out
viewers
that
are
way.
awesome, Diana.
Danke schön. And
They are
as
so
I've
good.
said in the previous, I want to express my appreciation to everyone here and everyone who is not here. And if you're not here, you'd better be here at some point. One of those deals. And I'm going to say, thanks a lot, troops. See you on the other side.
And don't choke on the selfie stick.